Welcome to Our Future is Kind, a podcast exploring how we build the future we want to live in, one kind act at a time. I'm your host, Michael Neece, president of Our Future is Kind, and your companion in conversations about kindness, leadership, connection, and courage. Each week, I sit down with thoughtful leaders, creators, and bridge builders to explore what a healthier, more humane future could look like, and the choices it takes to build it. These are honest conversations about purpose, culture, curiosity, and what it really means to show up for one another at work, in our communities, and in everyday life. Along the way, we'll unearth practical ideas, small but meaningful acts, and questions worth sitting with, because building what's next is a choice. So let's dive in. Ron Smith is the founder of Bridge to Kindness and somebody who leads the way when it comes to leading with the heart. He is a man who sees the gaps and fills them in. Ron Smith, welcome to Our Future is Kind.
Thank you for having me today, Michael. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, I couldn't be more pleased to have this conversation with you today. And while I just gave an introduction of you, I would love for you to tell everybody in the audience what makes you, you.
Well, what's unique about my travels is that I've had the opportunity to live out my life mission, and I'm doing that right now, and it's a lot of fun to do. I was raised with the mantra of others before self, coming from 5 generations of teachers going back both directions in my family. It's neat to be able to now have the opportunity to live that out. My parents as teachers would do many things for the students that were in their classrooms, not to teach them, they did that very well, but also to help those families in times of need. So the number of times that I would see my mother before she would grade papers in the afternoon, if she knew of a child in her classroom that couldn't see the chalkboard because they needed a pair of glasses, she would call every optometrist in town to see who would donate them.
Oh, wow.
My father was a 7th grade math teacher and also coached the junior high basketball team. And if there was a player on the team that needed a pair of shoes, he would go to our 2 sporting goods stores in town and ask who would donate the shoes. They didn't have Dick's Sporting Goods back then that carried everything. Right. And so, you had locally owned and operated sporting goods stores that would provide the gear for the local teams and do the jerseys, etc. But that is the mindset that I was raised in, and I just thought every family just did that naturally. But as I got into Scouts, I found out that that was quite unique. And so I went through Boy Scouts and got my Eagle Scout 2 weeks before I turned 18. I took it to the limit. It took 7 years and 50 weeks to get it, but I did. But following that, I was able to get involved in my career of choice, which is radio broadcasting. And being in radio, it is the old, if you remember WKRP, it is town to town and up and down the dial. I've been very fortunate to be in Columbus, Ohio, and in radio here in Columbus my whole career. I haven't changed cities, but I have changed frequencies on the radio dial. One of the stations that I was working for to pay my way through college ended up losing its license due to FCC violations. Wow. And we all had to find something else to do. So at the time, I started a audio-video production company called SOH Productions, which actually stands for Serving Only Him. He's the owner of the store. I'm just the keeper. And we just celebrated 37 years in business on February 9th. I started it the day after I graduated from college. But being a business owner, I got involved in our local community and with our local chamber. And through the involvement with the chamber, that gave me the opportunity to be involved with our local food pantry and to be actually engaged in some way with a nonprofit to help people in need. And it was out of being involved with that nonprofit that a friend of mine that I'd known since 7th grade got in contact with me that he had started a nonprofit. Now, the difference between the two was the food pantry could help people with food. The nonprofit that he started could help with anything. And so I asked him what his definition of anything was, and he said, anything. And this was 9 years ago, and we were supposed to start it on November 1st in our community. The organization itself started on Martin Luther King Day, 2017. And 8 months later, we expanded it to be in our community. And as I mentioned, we were supposed to start on November 1st. But the week before, on October 24th, on a Wednesday morning at 5:30, a gentleman by the name of John got out of bed and made himself some breakfast. And as he went to get the toast out of the toaster, he discovered that he was smelling smoke, and it wasn't coming from the toaster. And so he threw on a pair of shoes and opened up the door to his apartment, looked down the hallway, and saw flames. He lives in a 4-unit, 4 one-bedroom apartment building. So he immediately started banging on doors and got everybody out. My phone rang at 6:30 from our fire chief, and he said, "Ron, isn't this what you do? You help people in need?" I said, "Yep. You might want to get over here. I think we have some people that might need your help." I said, "All right." So I sat in the ambulance, and John stepped in, and John's an electrical contractor, and he said, "Last night I brought my tools in the house versus keeping them in my pickup truck, and now they're all ash. I can't go back to work unless I have my tools." And I said, "Well, hang on a second. I got an idea. I actually know Trish. She's the owner of the local hardware store. Let me give her a call. Hang on a second. I've seen her at chamber meetings for years." So I called Trish, and I said, "I'm sitting here with John. Is there anything we can do to help him?" And she said, and this was to my surprise. She said, "We normally open at 10. Why don't you two get over here at 9:30, do up a list of everything that he lost in the fire, and I'll replace it at no charge."
Wow.
And I said, "Excuse me?" "Yeah, I'll take care of him. I know you. I'll take care of it."
Wow.
Wow. Okay. So then April stepped in next, and she said, "I'm a nurse, and I lost 8 pairs of scrubs and 2 pairs of nurse's shoes in the fire. I can't go back to work unless I have a uniform." I said, "Well, the funny thing is, 2 weeks ago, I went shopping with my third daughter, who's going into medical assisting, to buy scrubs. I made a big fool out of myself when we went shopping. I hate shopping with a passion. But Lydia said, 'Dad, come with me.' So when we were shopping for the uniforms and the scrubs, I talked to Susan, the manager. I said, 'This is crazy. All you offer is maroon, blue, and black. Don't you have any other colors like fluorescent green, fluorescent orange, fluorescent yellow? I mean, make it decorative.'" And I was just being really goofy. I wonder if Susan might remember me, April. Hang on a second. Let me give Susan a call. So I called Susan, and I explained to her what I do. And she said, "You know what? We're open noon to 5. Can you and April get over here at 11:30? She can take whatever she needs off the shelf. I'll replace everything."
Wow.
It was at that moment, and it's called a Kairos, Kairos, a Kairos moment, when you discover that you're in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time, and you have a clear direction as to what you're to do next. And if you look back in your life, and I've actually written a book about this, if you look back in your life and look at the relationships that you've built with people, and at that point, I had, 28 years of experience as a business owner. The businesses that I've come to know and the relationships I've had with those people, I can actually now use to help people in need. So over the last 9 years, we've been able to grow the project now to be in 68 communities across 4 states, all volunteer, and impacted over 634,000 people, to encourage people to look at the gifts and talents they have and say, how can I use those to make an impact in my world? And so, yes, it took me a long way to get to the answer to your question, but I wanted to demonstrate for you how you can look at your own life, and I challenge you to do that. Look at your own life and how you can make a difference in your world.
Ron, that is just fascinating and so exciting. I mean, the idea that you are of service to others on the spot and in such creative ways. Talk to us a little bit about Bridge to Kindness. Is that what that's all about?
Absolutely. So Neighborhood Bridges, the nonprofit that we're talking about, has been very successful, and we've been very blessed to have expanded it. But we need to spread the wealth on that. How can we help other nonprofits experience that same euphoria and that same success? And so the Bridge to Kindness project incorporates neighborhood bridges into it, where we can come into a community and we can help set up a structure of 5 pillars to actually help a community be successful, to come together through collaboration. If I was to do a man on the street interview, you've probably seen those on Jay Leno, where he used to do man on the street interviews.
Sure.
If I was to do a man on the street interview and go to an area called Creekside that we have here in our city, and say, I want you to name every nonprofit in our community. Ready? Go. You could probably name 5. You could probably name Lions, Kiwanis, and Rotary. That's a given in any community. But you could also probably name our food pantry that's been around for 52 years. And you could probably name neighborhood bridges because we've impacted 17,000 of the 37,000 residents in our town. We have 27 nonprofits in our city.
Wow.
Not many people know that. So how do we give a bullhorn and a megaphone, if you will, for people to be aware of who our nonprofits are and what they do? There's 2 lanes of travel. There are nonprofits that know who they are, what they do, what they're all about. They're darn proud of it. And there are people that would love to help out but have no idea how to plug in. We're building a bridge between the two. That's the bridge to kindness. So the first thing we thought we could do, and I thought about this and prayed about it. What gifts and talents do you have, Ron, that you could use to not be the solution, but be part of the solution to this? And I thought, well, I've been in radio. So I started podcasting 10 years ago. It's the new thing, podcasting.
Right on.
I have a podcast and a radio show that allows us to highlight 50 different nonprofits a month and their mission. And through storytelling, we can engage people with the community. Just like my 2 stories enrich your understanding of what I'm trying to do, we can do the same thing by doing storytelling of these nonprofits. So as an example, and what's my proof of concept of this, is there's a radio morning show that's out of Birmingham, Alabama, and it's heard on 35 great radio stations across Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina. It's the Rick and Bubba Morning Show, weekday mornings from 6 to 9. And Yolanda, the Chamber of Commerce director in Ardmore, Alabama. Probably never been to Ardmore. If you drive down Main Street, Ardmore, that side's Tennessee, that side's Alabama. You could buy a lottery ticket on that side of the street. You can't on that street. She was driving to work, and we had 4 minutes to explain our project of what we do to help people in need. And she felt called and said, why aren't we doing that in Ardmore? We could be doing that. Why can't we? And she reached out. In her first year, she did 974 acts of kindness for people in need. Wow. Now, I can't tell you if those people would have gotten help some other way. I mean, that I respect that.
Sure.
But my point is, she stepped up and out and was a difference maker in her community to be able to help people because she heard herself in a story. So what we try to do is we try to tell stories about each nonprofit. So you might say, you know what, that's where I want to plug in. The second is through a support group for nonprofit directors. Nonprofit directors are on an island. They're by themselves. They feel siloed. They need a place where they can go talk to others that are in the same role to have support. We have community events where nonprofits can actually attract volunteers. But when you come to the event, it's not speed dating. You're actually given a gift and talent assessment to find out what your gifts and talents are. And then the nonprofits that are there have said, we're looking for somebody with the following gifts. So if you have the gift of leadership, fantastic. Did you know our food pantry? You can talk to them right now. They're looking for a program director. Or you have the gift of service. Fantastic. You know, you seem like a husky guy, Michael. We need somebody who's going to drive the truck around to pick up furniture.
All right.
There you go. So you can identify specifically with somebody that you can help.
Yeah.
And then finally, we bring neighborhood bridges to that community. And then finally, we do workshops where we connect business with nonprofit. It's called corporate social responsibility. If you're taking up brick and mortar in a community as a business and you're not giving back to that community, the joy that you're missing out on is amazing. Companies that engage in corporate social responsibility have a 35% higher retention rate of their employees and have a 41% happier work environment. Why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
So there's a company that wanted to get involved in the community but didn't know how. And there's an organization that does sleeping bags for the homeless downtown. And we were able to team up the two so that when the outdoor outfitter gets demo bags from Coleman, REI, and Yeti, when they're done with the demo bags, they can donate the sleeping bags to the nonprofit to use for the homeless. And by doing that, for the last 4 years, that nonprofit hasn't had to buy a single sleeping bag, but yet they're making impact through that relationship. So the bridge to kindness comes into a community to not take the place of anything that's happening, but to develop a collaboration within a community in a structured way, to have everybody talk to each other and help each other.
It is fundamentally what I hope that our future looks like. Here at Our Future is Kind, the idea of we're building the future all the time. We're just doing it. And it's a matter of, are we doing it mindfully, or are we on autopilot and just trying to make the dinner, pay the bills, pick up the kids, do the things? And we sometimes lose that sense of connection with our fellow humans who are around us. Tell me, if you will, your answer to the criticisms that might exist for this system, because I imagine that there are people who say, well, you know, we should really help our own, and there are only certain people who belong, or there are only certain people who are deserving of this kind of grace and kindness. What do you say to that?
You are helping your own. And all we're doing is providing the seeds for those relationships to grow. This is a bottom-up mentality. This is not a top-down mothership mentality. We have built our success on bottom-up mentality. In June of last year, one of our communities, Lebanon, said, you know, it'd be neat to be able to give a $1.25 gift card to every graduate from high school and stick a gift card in their diploma.
Nice.
They wanted to do that, and they found a local business that was willing to step up and sponsor those cards. Well, Lebanon did it, and now every one of our communities is doing it. We had a fire chief that said, you know what? Sometimes you get donations that are in off hours because people's work schedule. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Home Depot, and what I'll do for you is I'll buy a 6-foot by 3-foot wide, 2-foot deep tub, and I'll put it at the back at every one of my fire stations here in town. And we're open 24/7 as a fire station. So if somebody is giving dishes to somebody or clothing or something small, you just tell them to take it to our fire station, put it in the tub. We'll call you. You can come get it and then take it to the family, because we don't have a warehouse. We don't sell things that we collect. We don't store them. And so this was an awesome solution. Well, now we bring that up in our meetings in every community, and every fire chief goes, brilliant, I'll do that too. So we're here to take care of any overflow within a community. Maybe you have a church that has a great program to be able to have a benevolence fund and help people in need with utilities or rent or something like that. But the church is at a point where their benevolence is very low and they can't do it.
Mm.
They can reach out to us and say, you know what, could we partner with you in this particular situation? Usually we do take care of our members, but we're at a point where we can't. Can you step up and help? Absolutely. So we're not here to take the place of anything that's already happening. We're just bringing a framework to it to make it a little bit more effective.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things that you've talked about consistently here that I want to talk about just directly is the importance of faith and the importance of your belief system. Can you talk a little bit about how you view kindness through that lens?
Well, it's right out of 1 John 4:19. We love others because he first loved us. And that was my mother's life verse, and I've adopted it. And so I feel that we're not over the top with it. But if we are the only faith person, and I have a personal relationship with Christ, I have since the age of 12. If we're the only faith person that they ever come in contact with, we want them to be able to see him through us and his love through what we're doing. We might not be the link in the chain that makes that connection for them, but that link is very important. And so it's important that we demonstrate that in our work. And so that's how my faith plays a factor in what I do. There have been 14 occasions, and yes, I've kept track. There have been 14 occasions where I found out I'm getting something before I knew I needed it. Now, if you don't call that divine intervention, I don't know what you call it. My backdoor neighbor over my back fence at home, I've known him for 32 years. Our daughters, he has all daughters, I have all daughters that were the same ages, so they all went through school together. Kind of unique that way. He met me at the back fence one afternoon after mowing his lawn, and he said, Ron, I've got 40 office chairs for you.
Wow. Wow.
Great, Dan. I don't have a need for 40 office chairs, but thank you for the offer.
Right.
The next day, that was on a Monday evening. The next day on Tuesday at noon, I went to my monthly ministerial association meeting. All the senior pastors once a month get together and commiserate. And I went to our ministerial meeting because that's where they let me know about needs that they have. And Pastor Tim pulled me aside after the meeting, and he said, Ron, I got some great news for you. I said, what's that? And he said, we're opening a new youth center on Thursday. We're having an open house, and it's to help students that need a place to come to do homework or get some tutoring or whatever. And we're having an open house on Thursday. We'd love for you to come. The problem is the youth center right now is a completely open shell. We have no place for people to sit. Do you know where I can get some chairs? And I said, actually, I do. So there have been 14 occasions where I've had those situations, which just amazes me every time it happens.
It's incredible. Well, I'm glad that you're not keeping your light under a bushel, and you are helping those who need it and keeping your eyes and ears open to what's available so you can provide it to others. I find it utterly fascinating. I was wondering if we can shift gears just a little. Here on Our Future is Kind, we like to do a little thought experiment. So if you're willing, I'd like to take you with me.
I'm thinking of a number.
No.
Oh, not that type of an experiment. Okay.
I have the answer in this envelope, right?
I have a number behind my back. Guess what number I'm holding?
So here's our thought experiment. You and I, my friend, we are getting into a time machine. We're going to get in a time machine. We're going to go 100 years in the future. And I say, hey, Ron, as I'm using the controls, I say, hey, Ron, we did all the right things for 100 years. We did the best possible things. And when we step out and we open those doors of the time machine and we step out and it's 2126, what are you looking for to find out if I told you the truth? And this really is the best possible future.
What would we see?
What would we see? What would you look for?
What we would see is communities have come together and neighbors know neighbors by name, and they talk to each other frequently.
Mm-hmm.
They know what each other are going through, and they come alongside and help each other on life's journey. So when you're on a block of 8 houses, you can tell me the names of the families, what they do, and what they're all about. Because the larger we get as a population, the closer we need to be. And I just really hope that we remember that in the years to come.
All right, so here is the follow-up question, which I know you're anticipating. We live in a world right now where there's a lot of rhetoric about not helping certain people and being mad at each other and feeling divided. I said while we were in that time machine, we did all the right things to build the future you just described. What are all of those right things? How do we overcome this moment in history and get to that future?
Well, how we overcome that is to have a conversation and find commonality and ask open-ended questions to each other to have and find that common thread. And by being able to ask someone where they grew up or the type of sports they enjoy or type of hobbies that they enjoy or places that they've traveled, there are different questions that you can ask another person to find that commonality that the two of you share. And when you find that commonality, that's when bonds start to be built, because you can build from that commonality with each other. So I would encourage people to just ask open-ended questions of each other. It's kind of like if you remember the old game Battleship. That's how I remember it. You've got the 5 ships on the water and your opponent has to guess where the ships are. Once you find that commonality mark, that can be that cornerstone that leads to a great relationship. I remember the reason why I've known Dan for 32 years, and we've gone out and done kindness. He's helped me on my kindness runs. He's a lot stronger than I am. But the reason why Dan and I actually bonded was because all of his kids' name end in all of my kids' names end in So he has Kara, Alyssa, Erica. I have Christina, Deanna, Lydia, Rebecca. And so we found that was kind of funny. Then we both found out that we both married somebody named Nancy. We We found out that both of our wives had the house before we met them, so we moved into their house. We both owned a Pontiac Transport. He dropped his transmission, I dropped mine. And so it just continued from there. But it started with the commonality that all of our daughters, we all both had all daughters. We have a support group on Thursdays, it's fine. But that all of our kids' names end in
Wonderful. Gosh, I love the idea that you are focused on commonalities and human connection. We are very much birds of a feather in this idea. I always figure that if we're not here for each other, then what is the point? And it sounds like that's what you're describing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So let's be real for just a minute. I know that our listenership here is saying, this is all great work. It's wonderful, but it sounds like it's hard. It sounds like it takes a lot of energy. And some days I feel really beaten up. Some days I feel really tired. Do you ever feel tired? Do you ever feel like it's hard to get going? And if you feel that way, what gets you going? What inspires you?
It can be tiring, yes. When you see the smile on somebody's face when you bring something that they need or you help them out, that shot of energy and that boost will say, you know what? I need to keep pushing because this is making a difference. And so you may feel tired, but guess what? You'll get re-energized the minute you do your next act. And that's what keeps me going, realizing that you were at the right place, right time for these folks, and you made a difference for them. And their simple words of thank you or I'm grateful. I think it's because my particular love language is words of affirmation. There's 5 love languages. Mine happens to be words of affirmation. So to keep my tank full, when I hear that, that just drives me to do more.
Love it. Wonderful. All right. So what are the things that you turn to? Books, podcasts, anything at all that you would recommend to our listeners right now that you think would help them?
2 things. I would recommend the book Good to Great. If you have the opportunity to read the book Good to Great, it's a great study of people that saw a vision and embraced it and didn't think if we keep things the way they are, we'll be okay. My example of that is Blockbuster Video, not being worried about Netflix. It'll never take off. People won't want to receive videos in the mail. We'll just stay as a video store. And we see what happened there. So, they ran losses and they had their first $1 million loss, and then they ran several $1 million in losses, and you thought maybe after the first $1 million you might have a meeting. So being able to take a look at, how things change, and you need to change with the tide and to be able to adjust. I found that to be very motivating. The second thing I start each morning from 7:30 until 8 in my quiet time. And my quiet time is simply made up of journaling and a prayer. And I've done this, I can't say every day, but 5 out of 7 days a week, been able to prayer journal. And I've done this since 2002, where I actually hand out, upside down. I'll stand on my head, but where I write out my prayers every day. In the margin, I'm a news anchor, and so I put a headline of what happened for me for that day in the margin, and then in the back, I list my prayer requests, when they were answered and how they were answered. So I've done this since 2002. My wife gives me a devotion book every year in my stocking, and so this year she gave me the Tim Tebow book, One Easy Devotion from Mission Possible. And this is about living a mission possible life on making a difference and making an impact. And so I have, since 2002, I have 24 books that I've gone through, everything from Utmost for His Highest, from Oswald Chambers to Tim's book. I would challenge you to find a daily routine where you can look at where you are, where you're going. It's not goal setting, but have a mission in mind. And that has been something that has been meaningful and I found blessing from, and perhaps you will too.
All right, everybody who's listening in, we're going to put this in the show notes, but definitely take notice. Ron just gave you great permission and great advice to really pursue your inner purpose and get that rhythm going. That rhythm every day is going to help you. So, Ron, our time has flown by. I'm just wondering, how can people get in touch with you? What are you up to next? How can people learn from your wisdom? How do people get into your orbit, sir?
Well, the best way to reach out is through our website, thebridgetokindness.com. You have to put the "the" in front of it. �thebridgetokindness.com. On the site, you'll see a wide variety of information about the project, what we're doing, and what we're all about. If you feel up for a challenge, our book is not a memoir. It is a challenge for you to actually look at the relationships you've built in your life and who you've met and how you can use those for a greater purpose. And the last part of the book is actually a gift and talent assessment. So you can actually take a gift and talent assessment and find out what your gifts and talents are, and then how you can apply those in your community. So if you mention that you heard about it here on our Future is Kind podcast, I would be happy to send you the book on me if you cover the shipping as a gift for listening to Michael's show. That is something that I would like to offer to your listeners. Just indicate that you heard about it here on the show. But more importantly, take a look at what we're doing with the project, and if you feel this is something your community can benefit from, we'd love to partner with you on it. So that would be ways that you can get in contact with us. You can also find me out on LinkedIn as well, on social media there. So happy to connect with you.
Ron Smith, I am so delighted to be in your presence. I feel very uplifted from this conversation. To me, I'm always thinking about how to build the future that we all deserve, the future that we all want. And it feels to me like you are just already building it, and you are making it more and more possible with every passing day. So thank you for all of your wonderful actions of your acts of kindness.
Well, Michael, I thank you for picking up the torch and carrying it the way you have, and the amazing work that you're doing to be able to cast a vision on what our future can be and will be if we all work together. And it takes individuals like yourself to be able to show a light to that. And I thank you for your mission and your message and how powerful it is, and the people you've been able to share this story with and the people that you talk to just show a small glimpse as to what can happen in the next 100 years.
Wonderful. Thank you. This episode's Kindness Challenge. This week, go ask 3 open-ended questions to someone you don't know well. Where they grew up, a hobby, somewhere they've traveled. Find one thing you share and build from there. Want to stay inspired so you can stay kind? Start a daily 30-minute quiet time practice, 5 days a week, combining journaling and prayer or reflection. Write your intentions, note the day's headline, and track what you asked for and what came through. You've been listening to our Future is Kind podcast, where building what's next is a choice. Make your next choice a good one and help build the future we want to live in.